My dad is gonna shut my mouth. Kicked out at 16 by my stepfather. When I was 10, my mom remarried a man named Greg. My dad had passed away when I was just a toddler, so I never had the chance to know him. Greg came into our lives like a whirlwind, charming my mom and, at first, making an effort to bond with me. But things changed quickly. The man who seemed so friendly became a disciplinarian. His rules were never clear, except that everything I did seemed to break them. Once Greg moved in, the dynamic at home shifted. My mom seemed eager to keep him happy, often at my expense. His favoritism became blatant when his own son, Jake, came to live with us. Suddenly, I was the outsider in my own home. If you were more like Jake, maybe Greg wouldn't be so hard on you, my mom would say. It felt like a betrayal, but I swallowed my feelings, not wanting to cause more tension. One evening, Greg accused me of stealing money from his wallet. A ridiculous claim, considering I barely got an allowance. When I denied it, he exploded, calling me ungrateful and lazy. My mom stood silently as Greg yelled, "Maybe I should teach you a lesson." When I told him he wasn't my real dad, his face turned red. "Your real dad isn't here to save you," he snarled. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, after a minor argument about chores, Greg snapped, "Pack your stuff and get out. I've had enough of your attitude," he roared. I looked at my mom, hoping she'd step in. She just lowered her gaze and said, "You should go. It's for the best." I grabbed a backpack and left, stunned that my own mother would choose Greg over me. The first night was terrifying. I wandered around, clutching my backpack, unsure where to go. I ended up sleeping in the stairwell of an apartment building, jumping at every noise. I told myself I'd figure things out tomorrow, but deep down, I felt abandoned. The next morning, I mustered the courage to call my best friend, Alex. His parents were hesitant to let me stay, fearing Greg's reaction, but Alex convinced them. "You're safe here," he said. I crashed on their couch, grateful for their kindness. A few days later, I learned Greg had spread rumors about me to justify kicking me out. He told people I was a troubled kid who'd been caught stealing and lying. Even some family members believed him. I felt humiliated and powerless. My mom didn't even try to defend me. In my darkest moment, I stumbled upon an old box of my dad's belongings that I'd saved from Greg's purges. Inside was a stack of letters addressed to me, written before he died. One line stood out: "Never let anyone shut your mouth. Speak your truth no matter what." For the first time, I felt connected to the father I never knew. I decided I wouldn't let Greg's lies define me. I started taking small jobs, mowing lawns, babysitting, anything I could find, to save up. My goal was to prove to myself and everyone else that I could survive without Greg and my mom. Alex's family helped, giving me a safe place to stay and encouragement when I felt like giving up. Slowly, I started piecing my life back together. One night, Alex's dad suggested I contact my paternal grandparents. I hesitated, unsure how they'd react. But I took the chance and called them. They were shocked to hear what had happened and immediately offered to help. "We've missed you so much," my grandmother said. "You'll always have a home with us." Moving in with my grandparents felt like a fresh start. They told me stories about my dad, painting a picture of a man who was kind, resilient, and fiercely protective of those he loved. "He wouldn't let anyone shut him down," my grandfather said, "and neither should you." Those words became my mantra. At 18, after finishing high school, I decided to confront Greg. I didn't want revenge. I wanted closure. I visited the house and knocked on the door. Greg answered, looking as smug as ever. "You have no right to be here," he said. "I have every right," I replied. "You kicked me out and lied about me, but I'm still standing. You didn't break me." He tried to argue, but I didn't let him. I walked away with my head held high, finally free of his shadow. With my grandparents' support, I enrolled in college and started building a future. I kept a photo of my dad on my desk as a reminder of where I came from and how far I'd come. As for my mom, we've spoken a few times, but our relationship remains strained. I've accepted that she made her choice, even if it wasn't me. Now, at 25, I'm thriving. I have a career I love, great friends, and a home filled with warmth and laughter. Greg and his toxic influence are a distant memory, and I've built a life my dad would be proud of. Sometimes I think about the phrase, my dad is going to shut my mouth. Greg's mocking words during one of his tirades. He thought he'd silence me, but he only fueled my determination to speak my truth and live authentically.